the company that I founded built a search engine in 1995, 96. So like 3 years ahead of Google. We did the first movie downloads to mobile and things like that. Then we signed a deal with Universal Pictures and came to us and said, well, we'll give you 9 million euros. And I thought, well, if they're doing this now, well, it's just a concept. This is worth 100 million. And I turned them down and I should have just taken it. I'm going to get an e-bike, and every one that I looked at was just square. They were shopping bikes. So I'm not arriving anywhere on anything like that. A year or something of searching, and I finally found a frame I liked. I went onto my Facebook and said, look, I've just ordered this one bike and I've now got 3. I've got 2. Who wants them? And my Facebook feed went nuts. People arguing over them. I asked him first. No, but I've known him longer. And then when they arrived, then I put another thing, said, well, here they are. Who wants them? They're going to be about $2,000 each. And my Facebook feed just was a tumbleweed. Nobody said a word. Went, oh, okay, it was the $2,000 thing. I'll just put them out and call them Cooler King. At least it's got a brand name, because there's no brand name exists for this bike. And I put them on eBay. One sold the same day and one sold the next day.
Thank you for deciding to do this in such a super short notice. I know we just messaged you. I didn't even know if your LinkedIn is active or if you're going to answer, because you're quite active with the company on Facebook. It's
semi-active. I look at it once every 2 weeks. And if I'm honest with you, until about a month ago, I was looking at it once every 6 months. LinkedIn's a great place if you're looking for a job. You always know when somebody's leaving the company because they're suddenly active on LinkedIn, liking stuff. You go, she's going.
Yeah, well, does that mean that I was lucky because you were around open LinkedIn when I messaged you? And
no, there was somebody, I was in California last week, and there's somebody that I used to work with a long time ago, and I thought, I've got no contact with him, and I wanted to meet up with him. So I went back onto LinkedIn. I thought, God, this is all out of date.
Well, again, thank you for joining me, and thank you for bringing your awesome product, your bike.
Thank you.
And basically for those at home and audience that usually tends to think that I'm in a basement or in a really small room. There you go. We managed to
It's definitely not a basement. It's a penthouse.
We definitely managed to fit in an entire bike in the background. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's start with a quick introduction. Who are you, basically? Okay. And what is your company today?
I'm Paul Myers. I'm a Pisces, born in London. I'm a founder of a company called Cooler King Electric Bicycles, and we make, I'll tell you the story how we started about that, but we make electric bikes which are not average, they're not folding, they're not the sort of thing that you're going to find in Halfords, and that was born out of necessity. And previous to that, I think I should confess to everybody, I'm a business addict, but usually with new ideas, which I think have not been fully exercised. So my business history is generally stuff that people haven't done before or haven't done very well. And often with these things, it's finding they're doing that and they're doing that, but why don't you do that with that? And it becomes this. So, so I've got a history of doing stuff out of the fact that nobody else is doing it. Why don't I do it? And then 5 years later, I realize, oh, I'm doing it.
That's how it goes, isn't it? Like even with all of the businesses, because I'm an entrepreneur at heart as well, and I've started so many businesses. I was like, oh, no one's doing this. Oh, this is so cool when you start and it's so innovative and so on. And then 5 years down the line, it's a proper job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had never planned it.
Well, disclaimer here. I owned one of your bikes.
You're a customer, a valued customer.
And I would say that they're definitely not regular e-bikes. They look and feel a lot more like motorcycles than anything else. And, you know, on the time span that I own one, I'm really, really surprised how I wasn't stopped by police or anything like that. Because I would, you know, it looks so much like a motorcycle that you would expect to have a license plate to it and proper gear.
As soon as they see the pedals, they know the difference. They're like, it's a bike. It's a bike. But you'll probably stop by lots of people in the street saying, where's the engine? What is it?
Yeah.
Is it American? Where did you buy it?
So it's definitely an attention magnet. Yeah. And me, because I'm quite a social creature and I like talking to people and interacting and so on, I love that kind of attention. So I would stop somewhere and immediately I'll get someone ask, oh, that looks insane. What is that? Where is it from? the amount of times that I said Cooler King and showed your website on my phone is insane. And they're still, I think they're getting more and more popular nowadays. When I was looking for one, I know that US is quite intense about a variety of models of e-bikes and so on. UK, you were, and I think you still are, one of the most, in a sense, pristine bikes, these kind of bikes. Um, and I wanted to understand, how did you get started with this business? What was the trigger?
Well, there was never any intention to be a business. Where I live on a hill, and I see cyclists going up and down the hill, and they're clad in their lycra, advertising other people's names without getting any money for it. And they're panting and getting out of breath. I thought, I really want a bike, but I'm not doing that. I'm not arriving anywhere sweaty. And I'd ridden an e-bike, I rented one in Barcelona. I thought, these are genius. I'm going to get an e-bike. And everyone that I looked at was just square. They were shopping bikes. I thought, I'm not arriving anywhere on anything like that. And it was about probably like a year or something of searching. And I finally found a frame I liked. And I contacted the factory and I said, I love the shape of what you're doing. My business, my main business at the time was an app publishing company. We did London Tube Map and New York Subway. And we got, I think maybe up to 3 million visitors a day across the different subway, metro apps. And so I said to them, I've got these, I'm reaching commuters every day. I'd like to buy one sample. But I want to like this. It's got to have a Bafang motor. It has to have Samsung cells. It has to have hand-stitched tan grips. Has to have tan hand-stitched grips and tan accents and a color screen. And I gave these very specifics. They said, yeah, absolutely, we can build that for you, because they're building the frame, but they're making it in fire engine red and with quite a different spec. Let's just say. And they said, yeah, we can do, but we can only build you 5. Oh God, I don't want 5. So, yeah, but I've got this business and I can help promote if we can just get one. That was, if I may say so, bullshit. I just wanted a bike for me.
Yeah.
But let me use it as a little bit of leverage. And it's a factory that, So I negotiated them down to 3 bikes. And when they arrived, I've now got 3 bikes in the house, and they're quite big boxes. I mean, you've had one. They're big bikes. And God, what do I do with these now? And he wanted one, and I've got 3. And the long story is I went onto my Facebook and said, look, I've just ordered this one bike and I've now got 3. I've got 2 surplus. Who wants them? And my Facebook feed went nuts. People arguing over them. I asked him first. No, but I've known him longer. And everybody going, all right, guys, they're arrived. And this is about a month before they arrived, actually. And then when they arrived, then I put another thing. So, well, here they are. Who wants them? They're going to be about $2,000 each. And my Facebook feed just was a tumbleweed. Nobody said a word. Went, oh, okay, it was the $2,000 thing. Maybe people thought I was giving them away or something like that. Because it had gone from 200 comments to nothing at all. Oh, now what do? I've got these 2 bikes. I've got to get rid of them. I don't, and they're lovely. So I put them on eBay. And I thought, I better think of a brand name. And I thought, they kind of look great escapish. One was supposed to be in an army olive drab, and it came out a kind of glossy cream. And I said, it's not quite right either. But I thought about it. I made a little sort of mood board for myself, great escape thing. And I thought, I'll just put them out and call them Cooler King. If anybody gets it, they get it, because that's the nickname for Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, or his character in The Great Escape. And if anybody doesn't get it, so what? But, at least it's got a brand name, because there's no brand name exists for this bike right now. And I put them on eBay. One sold the same day and one sold the next day. Oh, that's interesting. So I got back in contact with the factory. I said, about those 5 bikes that I asked you to build and you talked me out of, I think I'll have them now. And they came over and I put them again on eBay, and they sold a month before. This is 2018. And they sold a month before they'd even arrived. Some stranger on eBay saying, these are going to arrive in whatever it was, April or something like that. And people were snapping. I thought, okay, back on. And I'll have, 7, 12. And this built during 2018, 2019. Started adding different designs like the one you bought, the Cafe King. By the way, listener, watcher, Biro here had like the best model, white wall tires, and he had camera stands sticking out. He says it attracts attention. His one was like a lighthouse. It had everything on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
And matching leather gloves, and he had the whole thing, the helmet and the goggles.
I'll put a picture up. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how police didn't stop me, because at one point I was doing these vlogs with a big camera rig on top of it, just driving on a bicycle lane.
Yeah.
So yes, no, I wasn't officially doing any of that.
So the business is slowing, sort of slowly building like that. But that's not my main business. This is like sort of this side thing that's happening, and it gets quite interesting. And then COVID hits, and as soon as COVID hits, my apps that we're guiding people around the metro systems, there's nobody going to work, and there's no tourists anyway. And the business, which was ad revenue based, just floored. But the bikes went nuts. The inquiries of the bike went nuts. People had more money. They weren't going on holiday. They were stuck inside unless they had an excuse to go outside and get some exercise. And it went nuts. And then we were fortunate enough to have one of our customers, the great English treasure, Ian Wright, former West Ham football player, who also did some stuff with Arsenal and Crystal Palace, I believe. But in my mind, he's a West Ham star. That'll go down well. And he bought one. I made a special for him, actually, just a one-off. And then lots of ex-footballers and other people that were real influencers, not people that say, I'm going on a camping trip and I've got 160 followers. I'm an influencer, can I have a free bike? Now, these are real influencers, and also customers. They started posting, and suddenly it was like, this is the business I'm meant to be in. And that would have been 2020, and now we're in 2023, and we're all over the world. We've got distributors from Poland to Australia to Abu Dhabi and the US, and it's a complete accident. Not complete accident, but mostly an accident. It's an accident driven, and sometimes when you get these things, you've just got to know now's the time to switch. Now's the time to not put another penny into that other business, because it's never coming back the way it was before. But this is the wave to ride on. And often it's good to keep a boot in both camps, after a while.
Yeah. So did you fold the app business?
It still sits there. It earns something like $500 a month.
Right.
And doesn't cost me anything.
But you refocused all of your energy
completely,
and resources in
I don't think I've looked at anything on that for like a year and a half or something.
Do you know, when you said over the pandemic, like there was a lot of requests, a lot of orders, I was surprised, because everyone was in lockdown, yet you had customers asking for them.
All online. There was no shops. So we had that advantage. We were only available online, and people had disposable income, and they wanted to get out of the house. It was just like the perfect storm. It wasn't just for us. There's lots of other bicycle and e-bike companies that had that. And interestingly, a lot sort of seeing that gold rush, because I think it was a gold rush for 2020 and 2021, had a very tough 2022 and 2023. And we've seen manufacturers and retailers, and a lot of them turn to new businesses and go by the wayside and things like that. So there's been a lot of fallout from that, but we're still here.
Question. Hypothetically, if say, because you started this 2018, 2019, if say pandemic wouldn't have happened, would have you been thinking about opening a shop as the first thing? Because I know a lot of businesses that, like yourself, like physical products that started and were kind of forced to do e-commerce, and then they realized, well, e-commerce is a lot more, less stress, because I don't need to own a store. It has its benefits as well, because you can sell from your store or from your storage and so on, rather than shipping and such. But a lot of businesses were forced down that path. Would you have taken that path if pandemic wouldn't have hit?
If the business is accelerated in the same way, still no. Because, we've got a premium product. We do pop-ups. I met you once this year.
Last year.
last year
Yeah.
at the pop-up shop in Brighton. We do pop-ups and events and things like that. I think if we had a full-time shop in Brighton, we'd saturate the market, even with tourists. And you go, okay, so now we're sitting here on a Wednesday afternoon waiting for somebody to walk on the door. When we turn up for a week, we've got 200 people come because they've seen us on eBay. On Instagram.
Yeah.
Walk through the door, all new people. So we sell about 50% then on people that have been following us for ages. They look at it, they feel it, they go, oh, this is real. This is better than I thought. It was bigger than I thought, or whatever. And then 50% through discovery, people that hadn't seen us before. So we'll be relying on that 50% in which through discovery, which would dwindle and it wouldn't be worth it. So if it had accelerated in the same way, I wouldn't have done it. If the pandemic hadn't have happened, the other business would be still growing and getting better, and the e-bike business might have just been a sideline. Or not at all. I might have got tired of it.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Where would you be if your other business, if your app business would have continued to boom?
Who knows? The one thing was I was looking back and thinking to myself, maybe 5 years ago or something like that, there's 10 more years in this. This not gonna, you know that some businesses are just going to get eaten up 10 years. Incidentally, our London Tube map is pretty much the template for the now official TfL app.
Really?
So most people are going to go to the official TfL app rather than ours. But there's loads of stuff where you pretty much put tracing paper over that and copied it exactly. We didn't do a Google Maps approach. We kept it on brand. We kept it station to station type stuff. So eventually you have to know when you're going to get in the business. A while back, I sold a business in 2000, we were the first free internet service provider in 1998. Lots of interesting anecdotes around that.
1998.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But we sold in 2000, but that's because you could see the end coming. You go, ADSL, broadband was coming up. And that's when the big guys can step in. So we became the third largest ISP in the country. Our idea became the first one because FreeServe took the idea and they had better distribution. They came number one. AOL were number second. We were third, biggest ISP in the country, ahead of BT and Virgin and all these other household names.
Yeah.
But, they've got the infrastructure and they've got the money. At some point, they're going to get back to number one, and we can't do ADSL. There's no way that we can compete with those guys. So, this is where we've got to get out. We've got to get out while the business was really rosy and everybody knew our name. And, we're getting Sky News and BBC once a week and things like that. But, this is the time to go because it ain't going to last forever.
But this is so critical because what you're saying, because there's so many business owner, founders, and leadership in companies that they know that they have to let go, right? That it might be the right time. But because of ego, because of determination, because of a variety of reasons, keep on going. And then some of these businesses fold because, again, sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how strategic or how good of a business person you are. It's
the weather changes.
Without it's not within your reach, right?
Yeah.
To succeed, right? You're powerless.
Yeah.
So that's why I think what you're saying is quite important, because even when you're in your strive with that business, knowing when to sell and when's the right time to sell, and looking at what's going to happen in the next future, in the next immediate future, is very important. But we can't blame people. Like, I've done that in the past where I've hold on to something for way too long because I was so full of myself.
Me too.
I'll do it.
I did one which was 8 years too long when I look back. I could have got out of then much better off and had 8 years off.
But it's always interesting to think of these things, and especially if you don't embark on a journey with the business thinking of selling it, right? And you just get into that situation and you're thinking, well, I need to. I'm curious, if you had to take every single factor out of the equation and you would think strictly pure passion, what would you choose? Would you choose the app business, or would you choose the bikes?
Oh, definitely the bike business.
The
I'm
bikes.
creative with this. I just driven in a van here to bring a bike. I don't, like, it's just this. I get dirty and mucky every day. I go to the warehouse. I try new ideas of the bikes. I can be creative. The app business, I was basically talking to, or emailing or WhatsApping developers in Asia, explaining what the last change was and why they have not quite got it right this time, and maybe we need to just adjust that, and it looks wrong. It's like, oh, the format is wrong. It's like, oh, I want to shoot myself sometimes. But it was a business I actually quite like. I like maps in it, and that started because we had I'll go back. We started this company called BAPS. We started that business, or I started that business before smartphones were out. And we did some Facebook apps. And you knew, like, this is coming. How is it going to be? But you don't actually know. And when the iPhone came out, it was like, what is the quickest, easiest app we can make just to do an iPhone app, to see whether we can do it, to see whether it worked. And it was the London Tube map. We licensed the map, and it was just a map on the screen. So you always had it, because if you're underground, you've got no internet connection. Yeah. Certainly you didn't then, in 2007. And so it's the quickest, easiest thing to do. And that was it. So then we just fell in. It was like the number one, I don't know what category it is now, because they've changed the categories. It was the
navigation
number one.
Or something.
Navigation, that's correct. It was the number one navigation app for like 2 or 3 years. It was like not Google Maps, not Garmin, not anything. It was like, and actually I should have done more screenshots, because you kind of go, oh yeah, well, it's just there, because everything else around it was boring. It's like, well, obviously we're number one. Like, we just made a really simple app that 3 million people might actually need, or whatever the number is traveling on the tube every day. So again, that was just trying something, and that business fell into place. Well, that works. Now we better add some features, and that probably took a year and a half to add some features, because we had that. Then we were doing consultants, or building apps really, or repairing other people's started apps. When web designers said we're on the web designer company, yeah, I can build you an app. Oh, there's more to it. We'll get an app builder in. So we're doing like Mother Care and some other names. I don't even remember who they are now. So we're doing, we were doing a lot of corporate stuff. And the idea when I started that business was, we'll do one for us, we'll build a game for us, or an app for us, and then one for them. Yeah. So the corporate stuff will pay for our experimentation, building new stuff. And what happened was, like, the first 2 years, we just got bogged down in corporate work.
It happens.
Yeah, because we were there we were there, right people at the right time. And then the end of it, or the end of the business was like, I'm not doing any more of that. There's only so many conference calls you can take where somebody has no idea what they really want, but they need to fill half an hour to say that they've done a meeting.
Yeah. I feel that's been the model, at least I think there's pretty much nowadays, and with SaaS and software as well, there are many companies that are development companies that also build their own products and fund building their own products and launching their own products with money from customers. Yeah. So you were quite early in the marketplace, in the
stupidly early. We built a search, the company that I founded built a search engine in 1995, 96. So like 3 years ahead of Google. Funny. I went into a meeting supporting a friend of mine, like, years later, maybe 10 years ago, something like that, and into the meeting, and he said, like, just want somebody that's got a bit of a understanding of stuff that I don't know about. Will you come along with me? Yeah, okay, I'll come along with you. I'll give you some support. I walked in, and there's a guy opposite the table who I knew from those years, and his opening line was, he's the guy that invented Google. And I went, can I leave? Can I leave now? I don't think you need me anymore. Can I leave? Obviously, I didn't invent Google, but we did do Europe's first search engine, and we started it before Yahoo was even in existence. So yeah, there's always this thing where it's like, this is a bit obvious, like somebody should be doing this, so why isn't it us? And with that it was the first day somebody in 1995, to a great friend of mine, an artist called David Little. If you ever look for David Little stuff, it's amazing. He introduced me to somebody that showed me the internet. I went, okay, so how do I find that? Oh, you've just got to know, and you've got to look. And you go, Well, why can't I search for it? Well, you can't really search for it. You've got to go onto these boards. What's a board? What do you mean? A message? What must a message? And you all this stuff. And go, so why can't you search for it? And while I'm searching for it, I see drink Coca-Cola because I'm thirsty, or that doesn't really work like that. Well, it bloody well will. So I went back to a business associate and said, I think we've got to do this. This is like unbelievable. He was like, I'd sell, a very successful guy said, I'd sell my house to do this. I go, you don't have to. Let's try and find a way to do this. So yeah, then the ISP in 1998, which was born out of that business. We bought another business, which was an ISP, and we were making like 1,600 quid a month. And I go, we might as well just give it away. We're making £2 a customer. And I found a way that we could give the internet away for free, because then you had to pay for a phone. You had to pay for your phone call with a modem. So you still pay 1p and 5p a minute. So who's getting the 1p and 5p a minute? Well, the receiving telecom provider. Well, we'll go to telecom provider. They'll give us half of that. And we found one, and they were like, this could be massive. We fill the gaps in their pipeline when they weren't using it. And then after that was a company called Whip It, which was the first legal music subscription service. And we also did things. We did the first movie downloads. We did the first movie downloads to mobile and things like that, anywhere. And that one I stayed in a bit too long. I was about a month into it when I just had the software and just had an idea. And I was at a music conference in Barcelona, and an Italian company came to us, and literally just an idea and three or four staff, and came to us and said, well, we'll give you 9 million euros, which was 6 million quid. And I thought, well, if they're doing this now, well, it's just a concept, this is worth 100 million. And I'm not actually a money motivated person, but that was like, oh, I've really hit the seam here. Yeah. This is a good one. And I turned them down, and I should have just taken it, because it would have been like 3 months work, and then we could have done something else. Maybe we could have invented the electric bike. I don't know.
Yeah,
So, and then that carried on for 8 years or so, to 2007. And at the end of that business, the last year of that business, we started recording podcasts, because we realized that we needed to be unique. Again, looking back at the business before, where BT were going to do broadband, here my thought was, we're all selling the same music. Apple will undercut us, or Apple will get to us because they've got the marketing and the devices, or Tesco's will give away music or sell it cheaper than us because they want to sell cabbages. This is going to be a byproduct, which is, what the music industry says they don't want, but as long as they're selling, they really don't care. So we started making podcasters. We needed unique content, kind of thing that later Prime and Netflix do, because you've only got access to a certain amount of catalogue. So we're going to have to make a unique thing. People forget that. Like, Netflix was just Blockbuster. It was just Blockbuster with envelopes.
Exactly.
It was no different.
What year was this when you
2007.
Started the podcasting?
2007. And then from that, then started the podcast company. Just spun out some of the remaining titles, which are mainly football and comedy titles, and did that. So again, it all seems like so long ago.
It does, and I'm also so surprised on the, in a sense, magnitude of the businesses that you've started in the past. Search engine, internet provider, movie streaming. So with this movie, was it movie streaming or download? It
was a music download company, but then we got into video, and then we signed a deal with Universal Pictures, and did the first downloads. And then there was another company that came to us and said, we've got the tech that we can do that to a phone. And this is pre-smartphone, pre-iPhone. There were phones with screens and things like that.
Right.
And we can do this and okay, we do that. Well, the big difference is, compared to now, is that it was a much more of a level playing field. There weren't the giants. Google wasn't already in the way to stop us being a search engine. I got involved and helped an exit of a social media company, a British-based social media company. But there was no Facebook in the way. They didn't completely dominate it by owning every single social network that you might think about, and every messaging platform and everything else. And they've done it well, using other people's money, and everything else. But it was a lot easier. It was a lot more level. There was no music. The only way you could get music when we started was either to buy individual only. Some of the most popular ways was buy music at 79p a single from Apple, or download it illegally. And we said, let's go somewhere in the middle. Let's do a subscription model. Now, if you say music for subscription model, it's like normal.
Yeah.
But we were saying like 50 quid a year. You listen to as much music, but we were also saying download and not stream. That's something I got wrong.
Was this pre-Spotify?
Yeah.
How
I went to visit Spotify before they launched. And there was this big empty office in Stockholm, and met with Daniel and some Andreas and some other guys there. And it was a big empty office. There's no one in there. I think there's a couple of guys playing table tennis or something like that. And I had like an hour with Daniel, and it was a great time. Watched everything he was doing and showed me this, and we're going to do this. And I said, and a guy, I thought, they are, can I swear?
Yeah, definitely.
They are fucked. They are absolutely going to get eaten alive by the music business. They've got no chance at all. God, like, I do feel sorry for them. And I walked out like head in hands, and then I was in Stockholm, and the next day, the headline was they'd raised, I think it was 11 million euros for something like 10%, like a tiny percent of the company, 10% of the company. I thought, well done, you. I mean, that was a good meeting, and you kind of convinced me that you're doing the right thing, but I just know the music bit. And I still thought, well, like, we're not going to see you for long, I mean, again, the thing, like, you get it completely wrong. I mean, it's never made any money. It's still not profitable, and they're waiting for that moment when Microsoft or somebody with more money than sense buys them up and completely ruins it. But yeah, it's an interesting time.
Interesting. So, well, clearly someone believed in them more than you did.
Absolutely. Well, I had the scars, it's like, it's the pioneers are the ones with the arrows in their backs.
Maybe someone that was a bit naive that said, okay, I'll give you the money.
Absolutely. And they just pushed through. They got deals. They got licensing deals in Sweden, first of all, I believe, and then went to other countries, paid much more than we would have done. But why? Because they had like 11 million in the bank. They go, okay, we've got this deal. Now we'll get another 22 million in the bank. So just a broader aspect than I had. I'm like, can I buy it for £1 and sell it for £1.20? That'd do me. But they're thinking of something completely different.
So I'm curious, and this is just if you can talk about this. What was the purpose of? Because you had the music licensing,
music download company.
Download, sorry. And was that in that time when you were operating that business that you had the meeting with them?
Yeah, just at the end of it, just when I was leaving it, actually.
Right.
So it was before they launched, so it would have been around 2007.
And was it, and again, just if you can talk about it, was the meeting just, hey, you're in this business, here's what we're doing, give us advice, or were they interested in funding, or what was it, or partnership or anything like that?
Yeah, they're interested in a business relationship. We did something and it's NDA'd, so
right,
I respect that. So we did some business.
Very cool.
There's a little bit of Whippet's DNA exists in Spotify now.
Cool, interesting. Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, definitely. This is just between you and I. Well,
in fact, I was looking the other day, but I couldn't find it because I couldn't access my email. When we closed down Whippet, or when they closed down Whippet, because I left about 6 months before, there was an email that went out to the current subscribers that said, you've got a free account with this new company that's opening next month or something like that, called Spotify, blah, blah. And I said, I wish I had a screenshot of that email. But that's pretty funny. It's like trying to explain to customers what Spotify is, because Whippet was folding, but don't worry, your account will continue over there.
Interesting. Yeah, it did took the music industry by storm, Spotify. And I was as big of a denier as you were when I started seeing it. I'm like, surely they're going to be cancelled by the music industry in a second.
My thing was a consumer perspective, and this might be to do with my age, because people younger than me see it differently. Certainly is, if we wanted a record collection, we would collect. You build it up. You go, and a little bit later, you walk into my house. Look how many CDs I have. I'm going to take them all with me when I die. And the same for videos and a DVD collection, or if you're older, a VHS collection. It's a thing about having that film. So you only watch it once or twice. Yeah, but I've got that. Yeah, no, I've got Jaws. No, come over to me. I've got Jaws. And I think I might have been quoted somewhere. I'm getting it completely wrong, saying people don't get excited about going to libraries. People want to own stuff.
Yeah.
If they're paying for it, they're not going to want to pay to be in a library. But it turns out it's the opposite, is they do want to pay to be in a library. And younger people have no interest in owning shit that they can't move around. They just need to access it.
How old are you, if I can ask?
I'm 156.
About 56.
Do I look good for my age? 56. 56.
Yeah, I do think that it's a bit of a... I'm 20 years younger. I'm 36. I do think it's a generational thing because I grew up in the era of torrents and downloading and watching stuff and deleting it just in case.
Yeah.
So when streaming services started happening, that was magical to me and other people, friends of mine and so on, because here I am getting access to all of this content at the price of a merely monthly subscription. And because right about then there was Spotify, Netflix, streaming services started getting a bit popular. And yeah, it was just magical because rather than me trying to scratch my head, and especially growing up as a teenager and young adult, not having money and looking at renting a movie, even renting a movie on Google or going to cinema, and it was like £10 to rent a movie for 24 hours. And I'll be like, I would only do that in special occasions where, I would have a movie night or something like that. So when that happened, when streaming services happened, I was beyond happy about it. So from a consumer's perspective, when I saw Spotify coming, I'm like excited, but in the same time, back in my head was, this is not going to last. They're going to shut it down. It was the same with Netflix when they started, because Netflix started in the early days. It was quite low-end content.
Yeah.
Movies, series. And
it's what you would see in DVDs in a petrol station in that £1 bin.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of it still is, except for their own content. A lot of the stuff they license is still rubbish.
Yeah, I don't think they, given their business model and such, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to basically purchase licenses for new releases, Hollywood releases, and so on. And even if you look at Amazon Prime, they're the same. They have on Amazon Video, they have Amazon Prime, and again, it's
terrible, isn't it?
The quality of the movies in Prime is not. Yeah, you can find some good old Christmas movies over there.
Yeah.
But everything that gets released, they charge for it.
Absolutely, yeah. And the worst thing about Amazon Prime is I travel a lot. You go somewhere, oh yeah, that's Amazon Prime, and you go somewhere else, you go, wrong territory. Can't watch anything at all on Amazon Prime in a different territory. Whereas Netflix, you're used to being able to get everything everywhere.
Well, you need the VPN then.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
By the way, are you technical? Do you have a technical background?
I don't have a technical background. I like technical stuff. I learn on the hoof. Going into the internet business, knew nothing about it, and just learn the hard way, plugging things in, being in the server room and saying, right, we need to buy how many of these, 3 of these, show me how it works. Why does that go in there? Why don't we get a different thing? Why were they positioned there? Do we need these fans? Oh, we do need fans. Okay, it's got to be cool. So,
Did you have, because sounds like most of your businesses up until the e-bike one have been technology-focused businesses. Yeah. Did you have technical co-founders, engineers, or you hired?
Hired good, yeah.
So you hired early, you had an idea, you wanted to put this in practice, and you hired people to help you, and you were naturally curious as well.
Yeah.
And learned some of the, curiosities that you had around the technology that you owned, basically.
Yeah. So I can't code, but I know when a coder is bullshit.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I can code,
HTML,
but I can code, but I am a terrible coder. So
Yeah.
probably if you ever hired me in the past, you would have smelled my terrible code
Make your
files.
apology. Make your apology now.
Yes, I apologize to all of the. Well, I mean, I've owned most of my company, so I apologize to me and to my employees, my team members that came in and pulled their hair off when they saw my code. But I was lucky enough to work with a lot of great people that, whether I had a job or done my own thing, my code usually got extinct quite quickly.
Before anybody noticed.
Yes, and you're also getting into issues down the line. So I think that's a good skill to have, to challenge the team that you have, even if you're not technical, and kind of smell bullshit from afar. Because when it comes time to scale up and expand your technology framework or server power or this or that, if your product is code in a rubbish way, you're going to have a lot of refactoring to do
Yes.
down the line.
Yeah.
And then it costs you more than if you would have done it the right way at the beginning. And to be honest, being in the engineering space for a while, there's no right way. There's no perfect way. You can't build anything perfect because everything gets obsolete really quick
Yes.
in technology nowadays. But you can build it in such a way that you don't pull your hair down the line and decide, well, you know what, we can't scale.
And then there's the putting it out and seeing if it works. Should we just do this agile? Let's get it out there, find out. And in the background, there's 5 guys making it work. You go,
Yeah.
oh, they went left and not right. Nobody looks at that bit at all. Let's not do that. Or, that gets really creaky under strain. So, a lot of these things where it's often better to put something out and see if it works.
It does sound from your story and from all of these businesses that you started, built up, and at one point pivoted, sold, closed down.
Absolutely.
Did you most of the time see the pivot or the end of your life with that business coming way up front and decided to move? Did you had any of these businesses that you got into a situation where it's like, I'm forced to take this step?
Well, yeah, certainly with the app company, I thought it was gonna be dead in 10 years, but it took 3. But that was because of the pandemic. But I already had it in my mind. Go, keep a look around for the whatever's next, or keep around for how we get out of this in an efficient way. So I'm always looking at where the end might be. The same with the Extreme, the free internet company, was like, it's only a matter of time. But we were lucky because there was this thing called the .com boom where everybody was going nuts, and we sold to a French company that had wasted £1 million on trying to get into the UK market, and I think had something like 45 subscribers. It's like, God, and they had like Woolworths as a partner, and which Woolworths for the kids, that was in every high street. So you see like where the opportunities are, and we were lucky with it. We were just generally lucky. No, I say we were lucky because it was being talked up as well. We were lucky that we sold like March the 13th, 2000, and then April the 13th, 2000 came the .com crash, or might have been the 12th. My memory might fade on that one, but like we were ahead of it. But you could see the writing on the wall because it was in the newspaper. It was on feeds going, is everything overvalued? Are these things going to happen? You go, it's going to happen. They're talking about it's going to happen. You see the same thing now, and they talk about a mortgage crash or a housing crisis or things like that. As long as they're talking about it for a few months, it's coming sooner or later because they're talking it up. Someone knows something, and they'll make it a reality. The more they talk about it, if the talk goes away, then you dodge the bullet. But for how long? And these things are always cyclical. They go up and down.
So what is it? What do you reckon it is in terms of a trait or traits of yours that give you that sense of, I need to be aware, I need to calculate my steps and potentially exit this here and there and that? Because I know, again, as I mentioned, I know a lot of people that don't have that certain analytical or whatever it is in order to calculate their steps up front and decide, you know what, the best option is for us to exit. And I know a lot of people that just continue and continue and continue. And perseverance is considered a good trait to have as an entrepreneur and as a founder. But there's that tipping point.
I think it might be the same thing as spotting these opportunities in the first place. It's, personally speaking, I can see, no, I don't like to say trend because it's not a trend.
Pattern.
Yeah, so, or a necessity for a new product. I can see that coming. Or people think that's really cool, but if you add that and that, it's even cooler. I can see that from a distance, and that's how I get in early and invent. It's not inventing at all. It's getting stuff together and repackaging it as a new thing. These new concepts and things like that. But seeing where they're going to end or where they're going to end up, where the big guys will realize, oh, we can do that as well. Thanks for the idea. Seeing that sort of thing. And sometimes piggybacking on that with Extreme, the free internet service provider. We launched that in March 1998. And 3 months before that, we were looking at distribution models and advertisers as well, because we sold advertising on there. So we went to see the electronics retailer, electrical retailer, Dixon's, presented them with the idea, and they said, no, this is rubbish. This makes no sense. Why would we give it away? We'll sell it for £1. We'll sell it for £2. No, you're going to give them a CD, give away a CD. And our pitch to them was, you'll have free advertising on it, and you'll be giving them a service, and don't get that. So in March, that was January, we went to see them. In March, we launched our service, and we got lots of news coverage. Don't know if we got television at that stage, but we had, within 2 weeks, 20,000 subscribers. And then it was just like, wow, this is pretty good. Then Dixon's launched FreeServe with this, sometimes you read in the media, this idea that they had, which was only 9 months after we'd told them what the idea was. And 6 months after we'd made it public and were operating it as a company. So 6 months after that, they had this great idea, which they already know. And they went straight to number one because they had this distribution through the Dixon stores and everything. And they had a brand people could trust. And we were doing everything in the office. We had an office that was for 12 people, but we had about 24 of us in there by that stage. And so if the phone was ringing, anybody would pick up the phone. Hello, Extreme, can I help you? Let me find you the right person. So that's how it would go. And you'd hear the difference in people calling up, the tone of the customer go, from before FreeServe launched, it was, it's free internet. No, there is no catch. No, there's no catch at all. It's just free internet. You're paying for the phone call anyway. Yep, there's advertising, there's no obligation. No, hello? And then after FreeServe launch, hello. You want it? Oh, you do. Okay, we'll just send it to you. All right, thanks. Bye. You want it? Okay, okay, no problem. We'll send that to you. No, and the tone changed because they validated what seemed like a too good to be true offer and made it real. So then we had our idea. They copied our idea. We then piggybacked on their success and became number 3 because we were already there because they were number 2
exactly.
And number 4, 5, 6. And by the way, this model went to every country in the world except the US where they already had free calls. Everywhere else you had to pay for a call. So from Russia to Indonesia, everybody did a version of it. But they validated it. It was great. It was great for us. But then the end is coming, and that all the other big boys are going to see this and do this better. And in this case, it was a technology play where they'd go into broadband. We were going to be out the picture within a year or two.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people underestimate is the power of a brand making a topic popular and being able to piggyback on that. We've experienced that with our business as well, where we were the first of doing something like launching a product, and then the parent company where we were an app on the marketplace of would launch a feature that would do the same thing in a bit of a different way,
Yeah.
but the same thing. That gave us a lot more traction to our products because people shop around. So they're not going to stop to the first thing that they hear. And I do that all the time. Someone makes a product popular and I'm like, oh, right. Like we were talking about the LiDAR systems that I just have on. So that was made popular by DJI. But when I heard of it, okay, let me see what other options are there.
Of course.
And I found one other option that was feasible. And I'm like, oh, this actually looks a bit cheaper and more compact, more in a set. I went with DJI at the end of the day because of the ecosystem. But that's another example of knowing when to bank on a different brand, a competitor making your service or your product popular, and when not to and exit. Because if the offer is too good to refuse and it doesn't make sense to use your service, then you don't have a business anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're competing, even if the price is the same, there will be people that prefer better an interface, an experience that's yours, and there will be people that prefer the experience of that other company.
And actually, the more they spend on marketing is better for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're bringing people. And a lot of these things are a lot simpler than some people make up. And it's basically like, I want some wet food. Have you tried soup? What's soup? Oh, soup. Who else makes soup? Does anybody else make soup? Everybody makes soup. And suddenly you've discovered all soups.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 minutes earlier, you had no idea. You just thought you wanted a hot drink that tasted of tomatoes. But all these things are often a lot simpler. And, spotting things that are out there are a lot simpler, and knowing when to get out. And it's getting around to doing it is probably the harder thing. And actually knowing that you can do it, knowing that I don't have those qualifications. I've no idea how that works, but I can still do it. Why can't I still do it? Well, so there's something like, use your own ignorance against you or in your favor, depending how you want to frame it.
It's also very interesting, your character and your attitude towards business, because it does sound like you have motivation and you have a certain type of trait when it comes to making things happen, right? Internet provider. There's like a lot of the hard challenges and problems in the early days of the internet and our current technology, our modern technology. So you do have that determination and drive. Now, a lot of the people that I know that have this attitude, I can do it, right? There is a way, I'll find a way. Also go to that pivot moment where they take that too much to an extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about competing and knowing when to exit and when to pivot and so on. A lot of people that have that drive and that dedication of, I can make that, I'll figure out how to do. Also, push things too far. And because they have that attitude, they carry that attitude towards competing as well. And that often can be at a detriment, because again, when you are talking about a company that has a large distribution system, but not only a very solid distribution model, but they might have a variety of products that they can package what the product that you're competing with in a bundle and make an offer that no one could actually refuse, or even make it dirt cheap because they can afford to, just to take you out of business.
Yes.
And then later down the road, they're going to normalize prices again.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you do have that determination of starting things, although they might be challenging from a technical or whatnot business perspective, but you also have the sense of and the awareness of, well, now I need to pivot. Now I need to figure out something else.
I also think it's important to be constantly doing that.
Yeah.
Be constantly adjusting, making those little tiny movements and looking at something. I can look at it now with that bike. Is we had a bigger bike. I don't know if you can see, but I'm sure we had a bigger bike. The one that the Vero used to ride. And there were several questions that kept coming up from customers is, I want to take my girlfriend, my kids or something out on the bike. Well, the one we're making only has one seat. I don't recommend you putting another seat on it. Have you got rear suspension? No, this one we could put rear suspension on, but we ruin the look. I want more range. Can I fit another battery on? Again, the idea, you bought this bike because of its very minimalistic styling.
Yeah.
You put another ugly battery on it, it's going to make it exactly not what you wanted in the first place. So I'm stubborn and I refuse to do that. You know what I do? I'll design a new bike from scratch that has the rear suspension, can take two people comfortably and has more range. That's the easiest thing. So it's that constant adjustment. And it might be even something stupider. It might be that, we're selling a really cool bell that goes on the handlebars. And you start saying, well, that's good, but we've had that for a year. Maybe we should get a horn. Should we be looking at horns? And you do that and suddenly like the horn, like with accessories, really stupid little things that would cost like 11 quid or something. That outsells the bell now like 10 to 1. But I know, and there was no like great necessity for a horn. You just look and go, maybe we should just keep doing and trying and changing things. With the bikes, I'm making special models all the time, and I'm doing them myself as a creative outlet. Is I'm making specials, and you get the reactions from people. Some of them have like sold very, very well, and just changing the colours, just changing some of the setups and things. And some of them people have loved on Instagram and not bought a single one of. You go, great. This, I grew up in the the 1970s watching car manufacturers do amazing prototypes at car shows. And the thing was, we're doing this to test this, and it wasn't. It was just to attract your eyeballs and get a bit of creative flair out of it. And if this one hits, you might see a tiny echo in the tail light of something 5 years down the road, because they're setting up what they now call design language, which they didn't really talk about much then. So this constant twitching of moving things around and seeing what works is healthy. Don't get stuck into, oh, look, we're making loads and we're selling loads here. It's not enough. It's not enough just to sell loads. You're not moving, and then eventually if you're not, what's that thing? If you're not moving forward, just standing still. It's that, isn't it?
And the other piece of, I think, important information in what you just talked about, the other bike, is it is important to adjust and fit the market and listen to customers and come up with solutions. But it's as equal as important for you to have certain goals, principles, and a strategy of where you're heading. Because again, you could have just packed that bike with absolutely everything that customers were asking for, in the hopes of having them buy one. But you do have a certain type of, you want to sell products that look in a certain type of way that's important to you.
Very important.
And you want to maintain a certain reputation for your bikes. And instead of packing that bike with a lot of things that might have made it just feel clunky, you created a new one.
We were at the SEMA show in Las Vegas, which is a massive car show, enormous car show. And somebody from an enormous American retailer said, can you do that but for under $1,000 and da-da-da-da, and you just look at it and go, yeah. And when he started saying a bit like this and a bit like, it was just like really easy. Like, we could maybe sell like 700,000 of these bikes. I don't know what it was, but it was like, everybody else has already got the market for shit bikes covered. We don't have to do that. They've all got that. We just do what we do. We make cool premium bikes. I don't want to sully our name with this sort of thing. So yeah, you have to have principles.
What was so is this the first physical product business that you own?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
With your history of building technology, building software, and so on, what are some of the things that you feel like you've applied in a very positive way to your bike business?
God, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Well, first of all, it's understanding how to sell online, because I spent like 20 years of telling people, you don't need a shop, you don't need to do this, and they go, no, I've got to do it. Yeah, that's really good. I think a lot of those things that we just talked about is you can keep changing, you can keep developing, you can keep moving it around, and don't be afraid to do it. And the other thing is being remote. That scares the crap out of some people, is because for like 15 years or more, I was working with people that I didn't know what their faces were. Yeah. And, they're on the other side of the world in different time zones and everything else, is making these remotely with, by the way, designers that I don't know what they look like. And I don't know the sounds of their voices at all. We've never had a vocal conversation in 5 years of doing this.
You're
and I've seen
completely
two
right.
photos of someone in my main contact in one factory, and no photos of the other person.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people that have grown up in business with physical products and brick and mortar type of businesses cannot conceive that, right? The default state is, and I have friends that have brick and mortar, is, right, so, well, I need this type of skill in person, right? Let me put an ad in the magazine. I need to find someone in Brighton. I need to find someone here, and so on. And you look at it and you think, well, that's a assistant that needs to type in stuff.
Yeah.
Do you really need
7.5 billion candidates? Somewhere.
Do you really need that person to be in the office next to you when they do that? But so you reckon that's a competitive edge as well, being able to do that, being able to work with people remotely and just work with the best people, the right people, rather than trying to skirmish an office and
then
work.
I stopped office work in 2007. Got rid of the office. It's in my pocket. It's in a kitchen. It's at home. It's in the car sometimes, and you've got to pull over and say, oh, I need to send this thing. So I stopped office work back then. So I thought it was quite amusing seeing during the pandemic, people go, can we adjust to working at home? Millie, you go, what do you mean, can you? Why haven't you been? Let's turn all these offices into houses.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I know there were a couple of projects at one point that we were thinking about in New York and London as well, but I feel that there's a big forced push now towards going back to office.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the property, the commercial property industry is kind of like lobbying that quite a lot, because like we have huge buildings that are almost empty now. We need people in them. Well, just convert them into housing and you still get your money's worth in a sense.
Physically knowing people that you're working with is sometimes important. Physically being in the faces of people that are just developing or just manufacturing products, just not necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you saw them once a year, that might be enough. And if, like I say, I don't know the sounds of their voices, don't know what they look like, and blindly send them money on the basis that I've now seen on a video, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
And you did move that forward 2 centimeters because now it's got clearance for, that's enough for me. Interesting saying about the skip back about pivoting and developing is when you're running something. In the last few weeks, I've been thinking a lot about completely different business, because it's a business that we would need and we would use
in order to scale this.
Yeah, and you go, there's loads of other people that need exactly this. This could be a really good business, and no one's quite doing it. And those people over there are doing that thing, so they've worked out that part of the model. And these guys over there are doing that thing, but nobody's bringing these things together. Someone will do it, if it's not me when I get bored, but someone will do it, and it's a really good one.
Well,
I'll tell you when the camera's stopped.
Yeah. We'll go for lunch afterwards. Well, I think that's the beauty of being in business and being able to spun up additional business that are related to your business that help your business grow, but in the same time being able to cross-sell this service to your existing customer base and potentially expand from there. it's such an organic way to build a business. Like when you have, I feel that when you have that, you are in such a lucky position in a sense, because you're not starting something from scratch and then figuring out how to build a business from this product or this service, like building a business around it, but actually you already have a use for this
Yeah.
service or product,
Yeah.
and you can also potentially sell it to your existing customers, and you're in a comfortable position where you don't have to rush into getting new clientele in the door because you're already using it for these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, that's one of the things that I'm doing with all of this, with filmmaking and all of the expensive high-end gear here. I'm using it for misfit founders. I'm using it for other purposes, business purposes. And, I'm setting up this studio and everything to start offering, podcast in a box
Yeah.
at one point. But again, I'm not in a rush because I'm putting these products to good use at the moment. So it's not like, oh, I'm setting all this up for getting customers to buy my podcast setup services, and I'm pressed because I need to generate that revenue. No, it's the most comfortable way to do a
Yeah,
business.
absolutely.
Going back, continuing the conversation around because I find this very, very interesting, because I've had in the past, and I have people in my present that are in the technology space or B2B software or finances, that have a passion for a physical product, and either doing that as a kind of like passion, hobby side of this thing, or have been thinking about starting it. And I think the biggest question mark and what keeps people from actually starting is the fear of leaving the comfort of what they know, like technology, which, a lot of people that I know have really well paid jobs and they're very comfortable and so on, and plunging into something that doesn't really have the same level of notoriety in generating revenue and financial well-being for people. Like physical products usually is considered a kind of like low-end, harder to generate the type of revenue that you would get of being an engineer, let's say a high-paid engineer in a good job.
It's risky.
Yeah, and risky as well. Yeah. And for those people, I wanted to ask about your current business and how you make things happen, because it's very interesting for me to follow, because I follow your profiles, your Cooler King profiles and so on. And I see you have pop-up shops. I see how well you're doing with social media. I see, you post various pictures, very appealing pictures, and you get a ton of comments and wows and so on. Well, they're very beautiful products as well. I see you at race car motor show events and taking pictures of the bike next to a slick motor, right, and things like that. How are you making this happen, right? Like now, I think my opinion from what you said so far, you've started so many businesses where you didn't have the experience and you said, I can do this. I'll figure out ways to make things happen. So I'm sure that you're applying some of that into your e-bike business now as a trait. But if you can share a bit of how did you get started? Like, did you look at other products models? Did you reverse engineer? Oh, here's this product. Well, they're doing trade shows or they're doing this. I should do that. Well, so how does it work for you?
It's coming from sort of potential sales leads or potential customers, is people saying we had an online sales mechanism, but a physical product. And these when people ride them, they love them and they buy them. When people see them, they're often taken back and they go, okay, it's not what I was expecting to see, or it's meaty. It looks like a motorbike, but it's like, wow, you know, like, which is always a pleasure to hear people like yourself quite surprised. So no, from us, it was a case of people saying, can you do a test drive? Can you do a test ride for me? And actually what I did, so this was 2019, or it might have been the end of 18. I can't remember now. 2000, either 18 or 19, I'll have to look it up. And a couple of things I did is, it was the third drop we had. We had 7 bikes, I think. And I rented an enterprise van. And I thought, I'm going to go out and meet the customer. I'm going to find out what they're like. If this is, you know, if this could possibly be a business, in that case, it was like, I'm not really sure. Let's find out who they are. And I drove from somewhere in Devon, a really beautiful town, actually, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, all the way up to Aberdeen, with stops on the way via Norfolk. And and I did, and I found out they were exactly me. They were just me that had put together this bike, that wanted it based on the inputs that I'd had as a child and all the things I want. They were just middle-aged blokes with something in the garage. They had a V8 swinging over a project which wasn't there. They had either jet ski or an ATV or something. It was like, I could have stayed at home and looked in the mirror here. But what I also had there is I loaded up some one built bike on the van as well, and said, while I was doing this road trip, just put on the Instagram, we're going to be in Manchester, we're going to do test rides, and I didn't know where I was going. And I was asking people that I knew, like, you know, can you, anywhere I might be able to do this, find a park, this park, I've never been there before, we're going to be here, I hadn't arrived yet, we're going to be doing test rides from 1 o'clock and it's now 12 o'clock, I've got to look around, where can I get away with doing these test rides? But as soon as I put people on test rides, they would love them and buy them and order them. I did a thing in Algley Edge, again, turned up with a van and sold 6 bikes out the back of the van. It felt really seedy, but it's just a case we're going.
Wait, did you literally sold them, or did you had to ship them? Did
had
they
to ship
order
them,
it?
yeah, no,
right, I thought that you was literally taking the box.
No, that would have been more fun. Well, I didn't have that. I didn't have enough because we couldn't keep. We still can't keep up with demand. So it's basically finding out that people want to do these things. So I go, okay, so we need to do physical stuff. And going back to your thing of like, would we have a permanent shop? There was a kind of permanent shop I would do, but it'd have to be something like a special property, something that was really cool, where we'd warehouse out of as well. Yeah. But basically I thought, well, if I can find a way of traveling around the country and meeting people that follow us and do things like that and giving test rides, then that's going to be a way to do it. So that's why I did the first pop-up shop here in Brighton last year during Hurricane Eunice. It's like the worst week you could ever want to go outside, and the whole thing was going out and demoing a bike. And we had a.
Wait, was I there, or was it the
no? It was
the
before
one
then.
before? Right.
It was like January 2022. It was horrific. It might have been February 2022. It was horrific weather. We had a motor on full, and we were at a standstill against the wind. That's how strong it was. But it did really well. And then I did Shoreditch and Cambridge and all these other places. So you go, okay, pop-up shops work. So just trial and error. Let's try one. Let's see if that works. The car shows. So we don't do bike shows. I don't want to go and see people that already have spent 12 grand on a bike which has a weight saving of less than the pub lunch that they've just eaten. Yes, 2 kilos lighter than last one. You just had a meat pie and chips. Yeah. Why do you need the 2 kilos off? You're not competing. So we don't do bike shows, but we do car shows and race events and things like that. So we look at the demographic. Who's our demographic? It's blokes like me. Where do blokes like me usually go on the weekends? They go to these places. So getting back to the blokes like me thing. So yeah, that did pay off. So I did find out exactly who my customer was when you get to meet them and you help them drag a box into their garage and see, you know, like what other stuff they like. But that doesn't end. Last month I did Chico Concours in Northern California. Somebody said to me, it's just outside San Francisco. It's 3.5 hours northeast of San Francisco. It's not just outside.
But that's what in America, that's what they don't know distances.
Yeah.
They travel everywhere by car. So it's like, it's outside.
But it's still doing that. And then everybody's surprised. Like, what are you doing selling these things? Oh my God, they're beautiful, aren't they? Oh, they're really amazing, aren't they? So yeah, so it's just just going to where the customer is in that instance. And it doesn't particularly feel like a brave step. Some of them haven't. Some of the pop-up shops just really haven't paid off. It's just like, got a beautiful shop. Everybody loves them, but in a beautiful shopping centre, and we can't do a test ride there. You go, sold like one. It's like, God, this is a tough week.
I feel that with your bikes, the test drive is a very significant factor of getting people in, having them in love with the bike. The looks of it and being close and seeing it and so on, it's quite important as well. But the test drive, because it's just a joy to ride. Like, I've had that moment when I first took it out, and I order it online. I'm on the other side, right? I was like, okay, it looks good. Looks like it has a lot of good kind of like parts in it. It sounds like you know what you're talking about with it. You're passionate about it. I'll buy one. But when I did go out for a ride for the first time, I'm like, I get it. I get it why there's so much commotion around it.
I get fan mail from people.
Yeah.
I get genuine. All I'm doing is making and selling, but I genuinely get fan mail from people saying, thank you very much. You've changed my life. I'm now going out. I'm going to tell you the funny one. I'm now going out like 3 times a week. And, another one that I'd never expected, people saying, we're going to sell my car because the wife's car's got enough so we can do the shopping and things like that. And I'm not using it anymore. It's wasting me. Okay, I didn't see that coming. I thought this was going to be, pub bikes, leisure stuff.
Yeah.
My funniest one was a guy writes to me and said, I'm now doing completely irrelevant journeys just so that I can go out of it. And he said, I went to the baker's this week just to check if they sell bread.
Well, I do feel that I've started when I had the bike. I was just doing with Nikki. Nikki, my partner, has a regular push bike, and I would just try to figure out, okay, should we go to Devil's Dyke today? Should we go there? Should we go there? And she would call me a lazy bastard because I would just be sat there, not even pedaling, just
lazy but cool bastard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with my helmet and my goggles and everything, and she would struggle pedaling uphill. Lazy but cool. Yeah, you're right. So,
by the way, on the fan mail, I'm seeing the joy in and getting thank you emails after they're delivered. Oh my God, there's something really special in that. It makes me warm inside, and you go, I don't think I've ever been in a business where we say, oh my God, what I've just done is you've just made me really happy. I've just been out my first ride. Regular one, almost carbon copy the same thing, and I can't stop smiling. I get that one all the time. It's like, that really makes getting up in the morning worth it.
It is very special, and that's why I'm doing this. I've been talking about it on the podcast quite a lot. It's not purely selfish to help other founders. That's pretty much a big part of it. But I get a load of benefit out of it, just seeing people so happy that they've watched your podcast and they decided to take the plunge into having a physical product, and it's going well and so on. So that brings me immense joy as well. And I've discovered this, and it's really cool and interesting that you've discovered this now, right? After all of the technology businesses and so on, and doing something that is fulfilling to you because it makes people happy.
Yeah.
I discovered that back in 2020 when I started doing sim racing. Might have mentioned that I was doing sim racing, and I have a rig downstairs. I'll show you when we leave. And I started doing unboxing and explaining some of the products that I was buying, because I was buying quite a few high-end products that people wanted. But there was not much information on it out there. And I started getting a lot of views on those videos, and the amount of comments of, oh, thank you, this helped me decide to buy this product. Thank you for the explanation. I was scratching my head on how to set up. It filled me with joy.
Yeah.
And since then, I feel I've been on this hunt to give back as much as possible.
Yeah.
This is in my nature as well, to not just keep information for myself and share it with others, because it's a lot more efficient and if you share the information, but just having that initial kick of, oh, I can actually help people.
Yeah.
And since then I've been on a journey. So
And
I'm
it comes
super
back.
happy
It does
to
come
hear
back. It
that.
sounds really woo-woo. It comes
Yeah,
back.
it does.
It comes back because if somebody says, "Oh yeah, he recommends something to me," they might know we're talking about. Is this any good to you? Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's great for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can use that, save that, do that. Yeah.
And just in general helping, because I remember when I bought my bike from you, I don't know if you're doing the Facebook
Yeah.
messages and so on. So
Yeah.
we've talked quite a bit. You helped me figure out things. I was scratching my head. So the customer support and success bit of it is quite important, and that can be fulfilling as
Yeah.
well, because you're helping people and they think highly of you because, oh well, he didn't just sell me a product and bye-bye,
Yeah.
took your money, whatever, but
Look
actually
at Brighton down here.
invested.
We've got a gang. We've now got people that didn't know one another that go out riding together, because we're. It's like, how does that hurt anyone? That's great.
Yeah.
By the way, funny thing is, we've got one bad Facebook review, and that was from somebody that wasn't a customer, and he came on the thing trolling us, and I basically told him in not using the word, but told him to sort of F off. Like, you could see that it was just a troll. And then he gave us a bad review and said it's bad customer service. If you're a customer, you would have got good customer service. But if you're a troll, you get troll service. So yeah, we do. We love the people that work with us.
Yeah.
I haven't got a lot of time for.
Well, you also have a Facebook group for the
for
the
owners,
bike,
yeah.
and the amount of people that post there and share their rides and pictures, it's really awesome to see.
I love seeing when people develop stuff. They're adding indicators. I think, that's a good idea. Well done. Like, I like the fact that they're so passionate about
I remember
improving.
I added a back indicator to mine. It was before you were selling. You now sell
We
an
now sell it,
indicator as well. And
yeah.
I was like, I need to get an indicator. I even put the big motorcycle mirrors on it, and I was a bit too mental at that point.
Bags.
Yeah, bags on the side and everything.
Bags,
Well, you mentioned your customer persona, which is middle-aged dudes that have a motor in their garage and do this, and they're passionate about motorcycle. They probably watch Steve McQueen as well.
Certainly when it started, that's changed a bit now, but certainly when the first handful.
That's what I wanted to ask, because I know for a fact we went to a couple of rides, and you had a diverse group there of owners and so on. Did that change, and how did that happen? How did you got into selling quite a bit to women as well that ride them and so on?
Didn't consciously try. Didn't consciously try. I think just as the products proliferate, you just start picking up a different audience as well. With a different bike, the Cooler Cup, the smaller bike, definitely gets 30 pluses. The Cooler King gets 40 pluses. You're one of the younger people riding it. But then,
Really?
we've got them, and they've got a couple of girls in their 20s by them. There's no real science. I know my target group is guys with disposable income and space to put them. We hardly sell any in London. It's where I'm from. It's a city of 9 million people. It's the biggest city in Europe by a long way. And yet hardly sell any there at all. We sell them all around the outside where people have got space. That's another thing. Well, it's not part of the customer demographic in terms of age or gender or income or anything else. It's about space. It's a whole new thing. Is people love them, but they've got nowhere to put them.
I guess, and when it comes to the younger generation, everyone's renting, everyone's in apartments or small terraces in London.
Yeah. Three people in a flat, whose motorbike is in the kitchen.
Yeah, and these are heavy. They're like 30 kgs and so on. And also, you can't really leave them on the street. It's not like a motorcycle. Like, they'll be stolen if you leave.
They need to be loved. They need to be put on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, funny story. I was riding back with Nikki from a ride in nature, and we stopped by a pub next to our house in North Lanes, because we used to live in that area. And there was a couple of geezers across the street. You can see that they've been through things, and you can see that they're a bit mobster and stuff. And they're like, my guy, oh, look at that bike, that's awesome. And they come over and like, oh, this is so nice, really cool, love it. Oh, you're a Steve McQueen fan and so on. And one of them lifts the bag and is like, oh, how heavy is this? And I'm like, oh, it's around 35 kilograms. He's like, and one looks at the other and says, oh, you could definitely pull up with the van, open it up, shove it in
He's
the
thinking
van.
to steal it.
Yeah, he's already kind of like masterminding like ways to steal them, which is
And again, that's his business model.
yeah, exactly. But definitely a magnet in a sense. Curious, since you've been doing this since 2018, for the last 5 years now, what was the most challenging part of building this business, this e-bikes business for you?
The most challenging is probably the thing that happened last week, which we have all the time, is getting the container full of product that's come from the factory to our warehouse about 40 miles away. That's always the biggest challenge. Because
so you bring it from the
the
port.
shipping and container business is the last mafia left in Britain.
Right.
Is, they'll tell you your stuff's arrived, but won't tell you how to pay for it. And it takes 4 days to process, but then you start paying a rental fee at £45 an hour for the container on the 5th day. So, sorry, can I have that invoice? Can I pay this? Sorry, I got
£5 an hour.
Yeah, I mean,
holy crap.
And the whole thing is designed to delay you. Sorry, you know who you are. The whole thing is designed to delay you so that they can charge you more money in the back end. And you can see certain companies, you can look in their reviews where people tried for the first time. We brought in a load of ping pong balls, and it was there for 7 days. And so what they do is every day there's a new invoice, but they can't process the money until the next day. So that is the biggest challenge for me. And when somebody finally disrupts that whole model, then things will get easier for businesses like us. So although I've said it's easy and anyone can do that, that's the thing where still 5 years later, still last week, I do go through this thing 4 times a year where I'm tearing my hair out because a big company won't release our container until we've paid them money for the invoice that they haven't issued, that they take a whole day to read, to release it so that we can pay another company. And by the way, these ground charges are spurious. 125 quid to move the container from the side of the dock into the warehouse. You go, but it's 500 or something pounds to bring the container the next 40 miles. It's like
I can see how that can put a lot of people that are getting into shipping their products from overseas can put them off.
Yeah.
In doing this, if things get so clunky and complicated and expensive, it sounds like super expensive.
Yeah. It's one of these like unseen costs. Somebody sees something similar on Alibaba and they go, it's only $800. Oh, go for it. Go for it. I'll give you $2,000 if you can get it for $800. Go for it. Go for it right now. You see one of these hidden complications and expenses.
Well, it's say 800 pounds, but you also use the top of the range, because I know we were having a discussion comparing to your competition. You use like top of the range
Best
components.
Best components always.
Bafang motors.
But there's also a thing, apart from the fact that you're getting the best components and you're selling the best components, is you get a lot less after sales calls saying none of this works. I mean, it really pays dividends. So you're paying like $50 more for a gear set or something like that. I'm saving like 300 disgruntled customers calling and saying their stuff is rubbish, and then we have to replace them, and then we have to send somebody down, and then it all builds up. It sounds, all these things are so much simpler. You pay a little bit more. You do get customers say that, well, I can get that cheaper, and you have to say, well, go for it. You're not the type of customer we need. Get it cheaper, because you're going to be. Batteries are a huge one. This is a new sector, and when you buy an iPhone, you haven't got to worry about what batteries are in it. They're iPhone batteries. If you buy a Tesla, you haven't got to worry about it. They're Tesla batteries. But when it comes to bikes, there is a huge difference in both safety, efficiency, and the length of the life of the batteries you get with it. So you could save yourself £150 but you'll have to have a £300 to £400 battery replacement in 6 to 9 months. And you go, because they're packed wrong and might be dangerous. If they're packed wrong, if they're overpacked, if they can't breathe and they get too hot, if the connections are badly soldered. So it for me, it makes a massive difference to get it right at the start. Customers are safe, customers are happier, we have less work to do. It's a virtuous circle.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, especially in the e-bike boom, right after the pandemic. Like, I've heard so many stories of, combustion, like just going up in flame, an entire store because.
Interesting, it makes a good headline. It's also the same with electric cars. They're going through it as well. Internal combustion engine cars are 19 times more likely, or according to statistics, actually, to set on fire than a battery car. But we only get videos of another Tesla has got on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but dear Daily Mail, let's not let the truth get in the way of a good story. The same, interestingly, with e-bikes is London Fire Brigade only just in the last few months put out a thing that 40% of e-bike fires are caused by homemade bikes. And homemade bikes is about 1 or 2% of the market.
Yeah.
So
I've seen kits of converting.
So the huge majority are these conversion kits where people have done them at home, like compared to even the cheaper bikes, but certainly compared to the better e-bikes. So so there's something to be looked into with, what's dangerous and what's not.
Well, I'm curious how a day in the life of you looks like. Like, how do you split your time with this business?
It's pretty boring. I just work. I just had this conversation with somebody and on the journey up I'm genuinely just working. And unless somebody tells me to go and do something fun, like, by the way, we're getting married, are you coming or not? Oh yeah. Then I'm gonna be sitting on my phone somewhere doing something that needed to be done. That didn't really need to be done. Something can be done on Monday, but I'm sitting there on Saturday getting it out of the way. It's a curse.
And how do you split your time? Is that you have these when they come over, you have, I suppose, a storage place, and did they come disassembled and you have to assemble them?
No, they're mostly assembled. We have to finish them. And actually, we just had a shipment arrive. We have to finish them. There's things that we have to add, components we have to add, paintwork that needs to be done. So there's stuff that needs to be done. But usually per bike, we probably work on we and other people will be about 2 hours on every bike to finish it up, to bring it to standard, to ship it. Then it goes back into the box and out to the customer. And they spend about 10 minutes assembling it. All they've got to do is put the pedals and set up the handlebars.
Right. And you have the shipping courier come to your warehouse and pick them up and so on. So
we just use one company. We said like you call it a white glove service, but I've never seen him wearing white gloves. But we prefer to have one guy come and pick it up, the same guy load it off, so it doesn't go through
he
FedEx
knows
and a
what
conveyor belt and gets smashed up. And we learned that the hard way.
So I suppose you have to pay a bit more of a premium on shipping because of that, rather than.
I don't think you do. It's like £75. We charge what we're charged, so it's £75 for delivery, but it gets there and it doesn't arrive broken, and that's the main thing. We worked with some of the big like pallet networks, and it was like one bike after next just destroyed or going missing, or customers saying they've told me it's in another town, I'm going to drive there, I don't think they'll release it, please just wait, I can't wait 4 days. So we went through that heartache of and it's annoying. It's the transportation, which is the only bit really which is out of our control, whether it's transporting from the factory to here, and containers are often a month late. This one certainly was. They don't tell you when you're buying them that there's a national holiday coming up, or it breaks down. We had the Suez thing. This one, we also had a storm come in, the one that came in from Ireland. So there's all these different factors. So you go, okay, we've done everything right. We've got the bike, we've got the customers, we've done the marketing, the photos look great. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah.
Did you ever had a shipment disappear?
Nah, not yet.
Oh, thank God.
Actually,
Because I've heard horror stories about that.
of a single bike going through a network, yeah, with, I'm not going to say the name, one of the big federal American companies actually went missing. And it went missing for a while and then just weirdly turned up in a completely different place. Completely different place. So it could be it gets on something and a sticker comes off one and goes onto another. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
We
it's
don't use them.
I think it's a breaking point, the shipping, all of this shipping stuff, because there you do so many shippings from freight coming in to delivery to customers and so on. So I guess that's one of your biggest headaches is shipping. So, but it doesn't sound like you spend that much time with the bikes, fiddling, tweaking, and doing stuff. It's coming in, putting them together, packing them for the customer.
Yeah, we shouldn't need to, as long as we got it right at the beginning. So most e-bike companies, and we did it first, and yours might have come like this actually, usually come with the front wheel off and you've got to fit the brake onto it. And if you've never fitted a wheel with a disc brake, it takes a lot of alignment and it can be very frustrating. We learned it, but it's a lot cheaper to ship. A lot cheaper to ship. I mean, 30% cheaper to ship, both coming from the factory and going out to a customer, because then you can more easily use those pallet networks type things. So our boxes are oversized. They're like 2 meters long, which everybody hates. It's just over the limit. But for us, it's simpler to have a bike arrive with the front wheel on. So somebody that just sounds a really stupid thing, this, but it's something we've practiced and it works, is if someone can get on their bike and go for a ride out in 10 minutes, they're so much happier than 2 hours of dropping a spanner and no idea what they're doing. We don't want people to be bike mechanics, that they know what's going on. But that thing of getting them out the door and go, oh my God, this is amazing. That's how we get the fan mail.
Yeah, that was my case, because I was like, I don't want to be able to have to tweak, and I didn't even know how to put the front wheel on. I have to message. I was like,
so yours would have been early enough to have been like that. Yeah, we learned that lesson, and there's a case of, and we've got people calling up either angry or unhappy, but the fact that they're calling us and spending our time because it's something that we can solve more easily. We can solve more easily by giving them a more complete product. Yeah. Most bikes come mostly disassembled, and it's about delivering it in a small box to save money. We'll take that hit.
Yeah. So it's clear to me that, and feel free to argue if that's not the case, but it's clear to me that you're a misfit founder in a sense, right?
Ooh.
Because in a sense of
Is that an insult or a compliment?
No.
I don't know how to react.
On this show is a compliment.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. As in, because the whole premise of Misfit Founders is we all feel out of place very often, right? In a lot of things that we do. You start a new thing, you start a new activity, you have to do some marketing that you've never done. You've had to start a e-bike business that you've never done. And I'm curious, what was the moment with the current business that you felt most out of place? That you've considered, what am I doing here? That like I'm not supposed to be here. Like I feel a bit out of my league in a sense. Now, with the caveat that I know that you've done this for quite a while, which is, here's a business. I can have a crack at it and try to make it work. And most of the times you did. I'm sure that there's some confidence in you at this stage, right? Where after all of these businesses, you go into something and you're like, well, I can do it. But I'm sure that there are also moments where you don't feel that confident.
I might be missing something, but I'm really comfortable with saying, sorry, how does it work? I don't know how that works. I've never done this before. We were loading into the SEMA show in Las Vegas, and we had no idea that the back door was run by the mafia, and that the only way you could carry stuff in across the room was to pay a guy to carry it on a forklift. No, I can just wheel this in. You've got to do it this way. oh, of course they've got to get paid. Everybody's get up. Go. And so you go, sorry, I've never done this before. I've no idea. When we do our things, we just wheel them in and we do it like that. Can we do? So I've actually got no problem with saying, I don't know how to fit a front wheel. How shall I do it? Because it's the only way you're going to learn. It's the only way I learn. So I don't often game with shipping containers and knowing that this email has got to go to the release people and that can't go to them until they've been paid. But you've got to request the invoice. And if you don't request the invoice and you go, the same thing is all this stuff is new. But
so you don't get taken back by...
I get frustrated, but I've got no problem saying, sorry, I've no idea how this works. I've never done it before. Can you tell me? Really, no problem with that at all. And even if it's stuff that you should know about or people expect you to know about, doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm never going to see them again. If I do see them again, they remember the guy that asked them the question and made them feel important, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. It's not contrived. I'm not thinking ahead. I just need to know this. Can you tell me how it works? Because I've never done it before. So that's a disappointing answer, and it's not bravado. It's just I'm really not afraid to ask.
But I mean, that's something that I think we all should reflect on, because I think more often than not, when we feel out of place in a certain situation, we take step backs. We kind of like withdraw in a corner and start having a bit of a panic attack, and there's a lot of people like that. I'm sometimes like that. But there's also moments where I'm organically curious and I make myself brave and step into it and, right, like you said, right, how is this done?
Yeah.
Can you help me? Can you tell me? And so on.
Because you got me ticking. Just yesterday, I had a thing where I got frustrated. And it's more about getting frustrated because we're finishing these bikes off and there's 10 to go out. And it's like, I don't know where to start. I don't know which one. How do these go and what's going where? And you go, and you're just like, but there's stupid little things where you go, they're not massive challenges. It's just because suddenly you've taken so much on and you're against the clock. Somebody's coming to collect something and you're the only one there to push it out the door. It's that type of thing. But, gather your thoughts, get a little bit of order, look around the room. No, actually, it was much easier than I thought, and you get it out in time. So I might be old enough that I've just learned to ignore it.
I think with time, and you have quite a lot of businesses under your belt in a sense, I think with time, you get wise enough to overcome and not just necessarily overcome, but also know how to handle certain situations and how to utilize certain feelings to your advantage.
Yeah.
Right? That I think that's what it is. And I'm going to keep my statement. I do think that you are a misfit founder because you're coming from this technology background and now you entered the e-bikes and physical products, right? So from that perspective, the founder persona, you've pivoted into an industry that you haven't had the background in the experience.
No idea about it.
Yeah. So, and you're making it successful, which is great to see, because I think that's one of the things that, I was talking in one of the episodes recently that I kind of let myself down because I'm an investor as well nowadays. And when I started investing, I had this mentality of, this person has the background in this industry. They've been working in this industry for 20 years and now they made a product in this industry. No brainer.
Yeah.
So in my early days of investment, I would have probably not invested in you.
Yeah.
Mainly because, you're a tech guy. What are you doing with this, right? But I've learned to understand that, people have various interests, and at one point you just wanna get into something. Although yours has been more accidental than anything as a business, but there's a lot of people out there, like I mentioned, that have physical products as a hobby and so on, that want to step into it, and it should be okay, and we should encourage that and aid that from an investor perspective, from a whatever business partnerships and so on, because it's not a red flag. It shouldn't be. I think
I've always been a misfit then, because even before going into tech, I was a guy that made records. I wrote and produced music, and before that, I was a DJ. And it's like, So yeah, I've always been a misfit. Then I'm glad to. So I got a thing that it was only this summer we were at a show. I was talking to somebody, and I said, "Yeah, I designed this to do that." Da, da, da. So the guy says, "Oh, so you're the designer?" And I went, "No, I'm not." As a lady, so I said to me, I went, "No, I'm not." I went, "No, but I put this together. I'm the founder of the company." She went, "Yeah, but you're a designer." I went, "Oh, I never thought of that. I am a designer, aren't I?" Now I've designed, and it just didn't occur to me because designers were the guys that sit down and design either on a screen or with rulers or, telling people that they want, more something on the hem. They're designers, not me. But yeah, okay. So I've made myself a designer.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the other aspect of it, because we also have these concepts of and these ideas of what it means to have a certain type of skill or badge as a professional, when in reality you apply a lot of the traits that certain individuals have in teams on your own because you have to, right? So even though you didn't sketch it, you didn't mold it, but you're putting together a beautiful product. And
I did sketch it, but then after that, it was like I didn't do any of the CAD stuff or anything like that. But yeah, you're exactly right. We have these preconceived notions, and sometimes we fall into that category and don't even realize that that's what we are.
Yeah,
you might be running your business and you're your bookkeeper. You keep your books, but I know you now send it to someone else, but you've done most of it. That's a skill, and we're probably learning that. Well, I think we should all be learning something all the time anyway.
Well, speaking of learning, I usually end it with 3 questions, flash questions. I don't know if I sent this to you. Did I?
No.
Yeah, not. Okay,
this is going to be a surprise.
I'm gonna surprise you, right? So 3 flash questions. First one, what's a quote that you live by?
Ask good questions.
Ask good questions.
Ask good questions.
It sounds like
a question for a question.
Yeah, but it does sound like has been the topic of this conversation, right? If that's what I've extracted from it, seems like you are really good at asking the right questions at the beginning as well as towards the end, because you ask yourself and your team the questions of where is this heading, and crafting the right path or whatever the right path might be for the business that you own. That's a really good one. I think it fits really well for you. A book that either changed or impacted your life, be it personal or professional.
I'll go back to my 20s and with that ask good questions thing, and I bet probably 25% of your audience go, yeah, that one. Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins was absolutely brilliant for me because about 3/4 of the way through, I realized how he was teaching what he was teaching. And that to me was a revelation. You say this and you say that and you say that, and then you will believe that. And you go, oh, that's so clever. I'll go back. You said that, I agree with that. You said that, I agree with that. You said that, I agree. And this, I didn't think I was, but maybe I am, because the other things I can confirm. So, and I just thought the whole thing there. I think he also might talk about asking good questions. I think, or maybe it would be better. Maybe it was like ask better questions or something like that. But yeah, that massively changed my life. I haven't got an education. I left school pretty much at 15 or 16. There was nobody ever discussed university. I never in school or at home had that discussion. And I went to statistically in the first government league tables, the worst school in Britain. Not the worst school in the borough or in England or the southeast, the worst school in Britain. The next year it was the third worst, and the year after it was the second worst. I stopped following after that. But so that book to me was like all of the things that maybe we should have learned at school. Oh yeah. And actually once you get out of school, you start meeting people. I ran away to Spain and did things like that at 16. And so you get that to me was like really, it was like you can do anything.
Yeah.
And I only bought that because I wanted to learn about hypnotism. I didn't want to learn about when to do anything. I bought there's a stage hypnotist. Doesn't do stage stuff anymore, I don't think, Paul McKenna. And we used to meet him at places and drink at the same sort of places and things when I was in the music business. And I said, I'm really interested in what you're doing. He went, It says to buy this book, Longmans. It's an old one. Was the Longmans is the publisher. You'll find out. I went into foils. I couldn't find it. Blah blah blah. And then the next time I say I can't find that book anyway. I tell you what, just get Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power. It would tell you all the things you want to know about hypnotism. It's like, oh, back door. God, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And then, yeah, so I learned lots of other interesting stuff, including probably the quote for question 1.
As I've had quite a few books, I was trying to think now, had quite a few books that surprised me in a sense of I just got it because, because I saw the title and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. More so than the books that I had very high expectations from. So that's, I feel that that's quite natural to get captured when you're least expected. Yeah. And the third question, a good habit that you advocate for?
Don't focus on the money, I would say. Focus on making good stuff and thinking a customer mindset. What would you want? And, like how do you want to be treated and things like that. So to me, you mentioned some things and it was like in the back of my mind about people going into this business and making a product. And often people are looking at it and going, oh, we can make loads of money out of this. We saw that in the .com boom. You'd go out and somebody go, I've got this great idea. It's going to be fireplaces.com. What are you going to do? I don't know. I just got the name. And you go... and other people look and go,
I used to buy a lot of domains just as a side note. I'm part of that group. Okay.
Yeah. No, but they'll be wanting to do the business, but they don't know what the business is because they think the name is good. Or looking at something and go, well, it can only cost 10p to make. We can sell it for £1. We can make 90p. But who wants it? Why do they? It's like, so I think it works for some people. People that are in finance, people that are in banking. We've seen in this sector, in the bike sector, is people come from different areas because they think it's a great business to be in. You go, "Don't great business to be in. Do something, make a difference. Come up with an idea. Combine 2 ideas that shouldn't go together to make a better idea than both of those were in the first place. That's a great business, but not because it's a great business."
And it shows when you build a brand, that we build a business just for the money versus being passionate about it. It really shows in the products and the services that you're providing. 100%. Right. Thank you so much. This is a really great conversation. I've heard some things in there we haven't touched on your past that much. You mentioned running away from home when you're 16, which we'll have a chat over lunch. I want to hear more about that.
There's a circus coming through. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, brilliant. Now, have you seen? You watched some of the podcasts? Have you seen?
I've listened. I've seen your Instagram clips, but I rarely sit down and watch stuff now.
Okay, so this is my gift to you. This is a coin, as a thank you token for being
that's
part.
So sweet.
That's also
I won.
That's also the 24 is your guest number. So your guest number 24 on the show. And it also has a kickstand so you can put it somewhere.
Oh, okay, so here's the weirdo thing, is that 24 is that number that keeps coming up over and over again in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I lived at number 24. I wrote a song called 24 Hours that got in the charts. At 24, my birthday is the 12th of the 3rd, and so there's all these divisible numbers, 24, 12, 6, 3s, but 24 is like the constant that comes through.
That is crazy.
That's and I know you could say, but you've heard 11 5 times today and you've ignored it. But usually with good things, it's nearly always a 24.
It's on the side. It has the side things.
Other class.
So it's crazy. So now you have a coin with 24 just to amplify the number 24 in your life.
Good. And will it fit in the parking meter outside?
Probably not. That would be funny. Just let me know if you do that. I'm gonna
put these on eBay for $1.99. Get £2 of value.
Just hold it. It's gonna be super valuable one day. Okay.
That's cool. That's really cool. It's a good idea as well. What a great thought.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you, mate.